Well, I will tell you one thing we have certainly gotten from this week. Good professional wrestling matches. NXT had that, AEW had that, and now when we talk about SmackDown, my word, slap your bald head, it absolutely had that. In fact, the first two were simply faboo. Everybody calm down, we'll talk about it. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Not really, my name is Simon Miller, but we're here now. What you gonna do? We are watching ups and downs from SmackDown, where we take this, the finger of power, something I made up, and we give the good bits an up, and we give the bad bits a down. So, was it a good show, or does it need to kiss my feet? That ties in. Let's up those downs. And just to double down on what I said, I love wrestling. Because not only are we about to talk about two pretty good matches, the very start of SmackDown had Michael Cole telling us, oh, by the way, guys, later on we're going to have a preview from the Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt swamp fight match. A swamp fight match that was literally the plot of Shrek. You remember Shrek, he was like, give me back my swamp. And now we're going to see it at Extreme Rules. It's just brilliant. The first segment, however, was featuring one Matt Riddle, who was going to do an in-ring interview with Cole, and you could just smell it. I could smell it a mile away. As soon as I even heard Matt Riddle come into the main roster, I was like, Vince McMahon, somewhere in the back is like, he doesn't wear any shoes. We're going to talk about the fact he's got naked feet. And during Matt Riddle's promo, we did indeed talk about his damn toes. Why can these things never just be a cool aside? Anyway, Matt came up with some crazy story about how he once got frostbite, and how when he puts things on his feet, it makes him go, oh no, I got frostbite again, or something. I mean, it was really weird, but I will say this, it's the little things in wrestling, it's the different touches you do, and somehow this works for Matt Riddle. All of this was mostly to try and get across Riddle's character as the laid-back bro. And talking about bro, I think he said that word around about 622 times here. It was just like, bro, how's it going, bro? But that is what he does. I'm just a little bit worried, because certain segments of this did sound scripted. Do not script Matt Riddle. That's the whole point. You just give him a microphone and you let him fly. Lo and behold, Baron Corbin then interrupted him because he's super pissed off that Riddle beat him up last week. But as it turns out, the King wants to play Mortal Kombat. You remember Mortal Kombat, right? You started at the bottom and you made your way up through all the different opponents until you got to Goro. Well, Baron thinks that he is the multi-arm monster because he was like, Matt, we should have a fight, but firstly, you gotta go through a bunch of challenges. What is going on? And it made no sense this either because Corbin interrupted Riddle. If you have no interest in facing him, why did you walk down the ramp? This would be the equivalent of me just inserting myself into somebody else's conversation, even though I was miles away, and them being upset about what they were chatting about, which is also known as Twitter. I hate me. Anyway, all of this is going to start now, and Matt Riddle's first opponent is Sub-Zero. No, it's not Sub-Zero. It was John Morrison, and I tell you, my word, these two kicked each other's ass. It was flipping brilliant. It is getting it up. Corbin also joined commentary for this match, and one of the first things Michael Cole said to him was, wait a minute, when did you get the power to be able to sign off on bouts? And I was like, Michael, we all know the deal. It was me, the wizard in the sky. I wanted to see Matt Riddle versus John Morrison, so I went look-a-boo, and I used my magic powers. So Baron, stop being an ass chunk and pretending it was you who was able to do this because you're the king. You're not a real king, and I tell you, if you do this again, I will use my powers, I will use Shabba-da-da to remove the royalty from your name. I can do it. I also need a flipping haircut. Seriously though, this is one of the most un-WWE matches I've seen in ages, and it was more akin to something you would see on an indie show. At one point, John Morrison kneed Matt Riddle so hard in his face, I think he dislodged a tooth. They also started off with some really cool chain wrestling, and both guys are so damn smooth, and I always forget how strong Riddle is. I know John Morrison's not the biggest guy in the world, but he was just picking him up like he was a pillow and hurling him across the room. There was this badass sequence where Matt hit all of his big moves. I mean, there was the Broton, the floating bro, a German suplex, and a bunch of other stuff, and somehow Morrison was able to kick out of that. And Johnny Boy also did this like tilt-a-whirl slam flippy doodah thing. It was absolutely amazing. I ain't kidding. And when Matt was hitting his signatures, maybe that should have been the finish because you already know what happened here. Miz was on the apron getting mad, and then Baron was at ringside interrupting, being like, oh, where's Scorpion? Where's Scorpion? And on all of that, John Morrison tried to use the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. But as we are learning as the weeks go on, What's even more devastating is reversing the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. That's what Matt Riddle did. He got the 1, 2, 3. John Morrison was like, oh, I was just so surprised. I've been devastated. Matt Riddle gets the win. Down comes the chart. That's 47th. They only started in March. That's basically like 11 a month. 11 a flipping month. AJ Styles jumped Riddle after this because obviously those two still hate each other until Drew Gulak made the save, because we're about to get Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles. And in the back, The Miz, John Morrison and Baron Corbin were all like, oh, rabble, I can't believe we lost to so unfair. Damn Matt Riddle. Well, Baron, you did this. You shouldn't have entered the Mortal Kombat tournament. Get over here. So yeah, we then did go straight into Gulak versus Styles, and surprise, surprise, they were also brilliant. I will say this took a little longer than expected to really find its groove, but maybe that was the point, because the latter part of this, like the final third, when they did have their momentum, once again, it was just so slick, it was so good to watch. The only odd thing was that Daniel Bryan kept joining intermittently via Zoom, so a little screen just kept popping up in the corner, and he gave his opinions on the match. Now that is the most 2020 thing ever, but who interrupts things midway in when it comes to Zoom? Anyway, let's get back to it. It was me, I said to Daniel Bryan, live at the show! Okay, fine. Jeez, what are you doing? Gulak kept going for roll-ups, and it's happened now. I started laughing uncontrollably because it's as if that nobody else apart from me and you can figure out how much this move is done, but who cares about that? Because Drew Gulak, every time AJ Styles tried to put him in a submission hold, he just effortlessly reversed it. I'm very, very happy that in this year, the crazy year of all time, he was able to get somewhat of a push. I'm the one that decides on all the surprise roll-ups when I was watching this match. Gulak, of course, was never actually going to win, especially because AJ Styles only recently won the Intercontinental Championship, although he did kind of brutalize him at the end here because he hit him with the Stars Clash, and that knocked Drew out to such an extent, AJ picked him up, or Drew did this, he was hanging against the ropes, he turned into the phenomenal forearm, 1, 2, 3, Daniel Bryan zoom in didn't help, AJ Styles is your winner. But yeah, as I hinted at the start of all of this, this was 2 damn good back-to-back matches, and I was all rocked in and ready to go. The goodness kept on coming, because then we got some sports entertainment, but it was in the form of Sasha Banks and Bayley. We were told they'd been in the production truck all day, putting together their own special video, because they were just so moved by the Undertaker tribute they had seen last week. And these two have just found their momentum now, and we've got all the evidence to back that up, because they're on Raw, they're on SmackDown, they're on NXT, and yet nobody moans, because they bring the entertainment. There was a little bit of tension at first, because Bayley accidentally mentioned everything that happened with Asuka, and Sasha was like, I don't want to talk about it, but they eventually got on the same page. All of this, getting it up. They were then back to directly referencing the dead man though, and Bayley said, look, he respects us, we have a relationship with him, right down to the fact, I don't call him Undertaker, I call him Taker. I laughed. Bayley then even did an impression of The Undertaker, pretending he had called her and said all these nice things about the pair. I mean, if I would have done it, I'd have been like, Bayley, Sasha Banks, I'm gonna dig you a grave, but it's gonna be a grave of parties and joy, because I think you're the best ever. But it was just so good. It was so good. These two are so good, and they've kind of babyfaced themselves, even though they're also obnoxious assholes. I mean, this little skit was honestly like something I would have done on Ups and Downs. Undertaker doing a stupid call in his silly little voice. Yes! We then got the video and it was your usual WWE package, but it was expertly done. And then we kind of broke the fourth wall, because when we came out of it, Sasha Banks and Bayley were looking at the other one going, thank you, Sasha, and thank you, Bayley. Someone give these two a prize. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross then broke up the party, and of course this does make sense because at Extreme Rules it is going to be Nikki Cross versus Bayley, but instantly I was like, I kind of feel like Sasha Banks and Bales have beaten these two time and time again. Why have we put this together? It was me! Yes, I know it was you. They then started to make up accomplishments to mock the bad guys, because they'd always been stood in the ring saying we did this and we did that, and something is awry here, I'll talk about it in a second, because they ain't coming across like people I want to relate to. Also, if they're going to make up accomplishments, well, so can I. I beat Kermit the Frog in an arm wrestling match. I was actually the first man on the moon, but Neil Armstrong said, well, if you tell anyone, I'm going to surprise roll up you, so I gave the accolade to him. I am actually related to The Rock, like all professional wrestlers, and we play golf every December. I lost my hair after a water moccasin came out of the water and just chewed it off while one of my good friends just watched and thought this was hilarious. Moving on, after the two had yelled at each other for a little bit, Alexa Bliss did slap Bayley right around around the face, so Sasha jumped in and said, oh yeah, you want to do that? Well, now you two are going to have a fight. And of course, Bayley wasn't up for this. We're doing more storytelling here. The planting of seeds is all over the place. And yeah, we had Alexa Bliss versus Bayley. Really, she shouldn't have worried though, because she didn't lose here, because again, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross always lose to these two. Now, it was via disqualification after Nikki Cross had just gone, oh, I'm not very happy anymore, so I'm just gonna punch Bayley right in the face. And again, as I've just said, something is off here. I root for Sasha Banks, I root for Bayley, and I wanted Nikki Cross and I want Alexa Bliss to lose. But, I mean, they come across like spoiled brats, even though that's meant to be the character of Sasha and Bales. I can't get my head around this. Also, this was absolutely pointless because of the disqualification, and you just know we'll get to the pay-per-view, Bayley will win, and then we'll move on to something else. So it's filler, so it's down. They had a massive brawl afterwards, and I think they also announced the next week is going to be the tag team versus the tag team, so it's proper WWE booking. Whatever. We then had the preview for the Swamp match. And obviously it detailed everything that happened with Braun Strowman and everything that happened with Bray Wyatt and everything that happened between the two. And it just comes across like the most ridiculous thing ever. A match in a swamp. Who even signs off on that? But if the idea here was to get me ready for a match in a swamp, well, WWE, round of applause, you did a great job. And you know what? You can have it up. It was then that classic thing when tag teams are going to fight with each other, but first you must compete individually, because we got Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kofi Kingston. But again, listen to those names, it of course gets it up. This is all because the tag team champions will take on Cesaro and Nakamura. I thought at the pay-per-view, but now WWE has shifted it a week sooner, and we're going to get it on SmackDown in 7 days. And also, Cesaro and Big E got thrown out of here because they were just causing all the shenanigans on the outside. And that was a mistake, WWE. You need to treat Big E like Poochie from The Simpsons. When he's not on screen, all other characters should be going, where is Big E? Because when he arrived in the ring, he took his ring coat off and he hurled it at Corey Graves like he wanted to break Corey Graves' skull. This was after he had rolled down to the ringside area again. Big E is the greatest man on the planet. I mean it. Other than that, this just kind of rocked and made me realise the level of in-ring talent on SmackDown is otherworldly, and the only fear I did have here was that we were going to do another surprise roll-up finish, because there were a lot. But instead, Kofi Kingston went for Trouble in Paradise, he missed, Shinsuke Nakamura hit the Kinshasa, smashed him right in the face, and indeed he beat one half of the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Cesaro then ran back out afterwards and just got a table from under the ring because he's crazy, but then Big E was like, oh, and he ran down to the ring too to save all of this. They stared off, and again, next week, championship match. We then got to our big Sheamus celebration that he's going to throw to Jeff Hardy that we were meant to get last week, but we are still not in Toto, Kansas. Because Sheamus was appearing via big screen here, I can only imagine because of everything that went down with the testing, and yes, that whole situation was crazy. Anyway, a bartender was in the ring who looked like MJF and The Miz pushed together, as well as Jeff Hardy, and when Jeff called out Sheamus, he did indeed appear via satellite. And from here it was the usual of Sheamus just ragging on Jeff Hardy, and it's just too close to home for me, which doesn't make any sense because I'm not affiliated with this at all. But it's not like all of Hardy's issues were years ago. I think we had an incident within the last 12 months. I just watch it through gritted teeth like, I'm so uncomfortable. I don't really get what all of this for either, because the big crescendo was Sheamus going, Jeff Hardy, I know how you sort out your, what is that? I know how you sort out your problems. You just need to have some alcohol. And so the bartender offered him a drink. And it's not like he tried to force it down his throat. He just, with a very polite smile on his face, held it out. Jeff Hardy then took this, he poured it away, and then got a bottle and smashed it over this poor innocent bystander's head who literally was just trying to do his job. He then fell to the floor. Jeff Hardy climbed up to the top rope, gave him a swanton bomb into glass. And I was like, that was unnecessary, Jeff Hardy. Maybe Sheamus is right. Also, how weird is it now on AEW and WWE who had closing segments of people falling out because of alcoholic wastage? That's strange. I do see what we were kind of going for here, and I also think, by the way, as a quick aside, that when Sheamus is out the door, we will miss him terribly, and he's underrated. But this was truly bizarre, and again, just it was all over the place. Who am I meant to be rooting for is getting a down. But with all that said, I was already invested in SmackDown after around about 35-40 minutes because the opening two matches were just so good. So if you're not planning to do anything else today, or you're not planning to watch SmackDown, make sure you check those out. Absolutely fabu, and for that, overall, is getting it up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of SmackDown. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE. You know the rules. Watch more videos here, especially on Saturday on WhatCulture. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you again for joining me for the entire week. I love you all. You make me feel good, and I'll see you next week.